This right here is Nick Suzuki. Here's Phil Broberg, David Jiricek, Alexis Lafreniere. But okay, Rob, why bring up these four players in particular? Well, all four of these players at one point were seen as promising young stars. They had the skills, potential, and pedigree to be great players in the NHL. Yet, these players would encounter a crazy trend that we've been witnessing ramping up in the last decade, which is the log jam effect. Nick Suzuki got traded before playing a single game for Vegas. Philip Broberg, who broke out in the playoffs, would sign an offer sheet with St. Louis. Jiricek requested a trade after getting repeatedly sent down to the minors. Alexis Lafreniere scored 28 goals last year.
Between the legs, he scores! Oh, baby, what a goal!
And still doesn't have a solidified spot on the power play. Think about the optics here. Only 2 of Lafreniere's 28 goals last season were scored on the power play, so around 7%. Last season, Auston Matthews scored 26% of his 69 nice goals on the power play. Laf has played a grand total of 27 minutes on the power play. Elias Lindholm, who has 3 goals on the season, has been on the power play for over 75 more minutes. Therefore, it's not that crazy for me to say that if Lafreniere was on a different team, in a different situation where he drives the ship, this guy could be a legitimate 40-goal scorer.
Lafreniere plays, drags it, goes to net, scores! What a play! What a goal!
If Suzuki doesn't get traded to Montreal where he's given every opportunity, he most likely gets buried in the Knights' bottom 6. The Edmonton Oilers desperately need a Philip Broberg. Oh wait, they had a Broberg and lost him to an offer sheet? Where the man has been a stud for St. Louis.
For Broberg, a shot! Score!
And more recently, the Columbus Blue Jackets have made a blockbuster trade, sending David Jiricek to Minnesota in a deal surrounding a slew of draft picks, as I've heard many fans and analysts say that Columbus would fleece the Minnesota Wild. But I don't see it that way.
Top of the circle, shot scores! Jiricek, his first National Hockey League goal!
I've heard that many scouts had Jiricek ranked as high as 3 to 4 in his draft class. This guy has all the tools to be a top pairing defenseman. But because of the logjam effect, Jiricek at one point this season played a grand total of 8 minutes per game. His potential might be an untapped goldmine for the Wild. The guy is a 6'4", right-handed shot defenseman with big two-way upside. Because after digging into the numbers, I would discover something shocking, a trend that's been changing the entire makeup of the NHL. And today's video is sponsored by Masterclass. You guys loved them last time, so they're back with a very special offer for you guys. Masterclass members gain unlimited access to thousands of online classes from over 200 expert instructors. Like seriously, go check out their website. The fact that they were able to somehow concoct a list of some of the most successful people in our generation is not only fascinating, but the things you can learn are invaluable. Ranging from Gordon Ramsay, teaching classes on the intricacies of cooking, Mark Cuban giving behind-the-scenes knowledge on starting a successful business. Perhaps you like music. They have classes taught by legends like Mariah Carey, John Legend. They have Ringo Starr. They got a Beatle. But what is hands down been my favorite class? Well, it's Wayne Gretzky. As I'm sure many of you watching this video had or have aspirations of playing professional hockey. Maybe you have a kid with NHL dreams. So the fact that Wayne Gretzky has an entire class teaching you on how to build a winning mindset, it's priceless. So if you click my exclusive link down below or scan this QR code, you'll receive 15% off your annual subscription, which is billed yearly, as Masterclass has an expert to bring your passion to the next level. So thank you so much to Masterclass for sponsoring today's video. Please go check them out and give them some love and support. When you were watching the draft this past summer, did you want your team to draft a positional need, even if that meant going off the board and your team selecting a player who may not have as much potential? No, you would want your team to draft the best player available. However, in the recent 7 years, we've been witnessing an astonishing trend, which is currently reshaping every NHL roster. There are still many teams who go off the best player mentality. But think about the optics here. Not even 10 years ago, it went from being a draft day shock to see a lottery pick team go far off the board to draft their guy. But since 2017, more so the 2018 NHL draft, we've been seeing constant, dramatic off the board picks. Last year, the Ducks selected Beckett Seneca 3rd overall.
Are proud to select from the Oshawa Generals, Beckett Seneca.
Oh, what a reaction that is.
Similar to mine.
When he was ranked between 13 and 20 by many scouts, the Senators would pass on Zane Parekh and Zeev Buyam, where they would select Yamachuk nearly 10 picks off the board. In 2023, Dmitry Simashev was ranked as a second-round pick by many scouting agencies. Yet, he was drafted 6th ahead of Matvei Michkov. In 2021, Mason McTavish went off the board. The Senators would draft Tyler Boucher, who was ranked around the second round at 10. Jake Sanderson in 2020. Kirby Dach and Mo Seider in 2019.
Moritz Seider.
Kotkaniemi and Barrett Hayton in 2018. In 2017, nobody. In 2016, nobody. In 2015, nobody. 2014 rankings were pretty accurate to the outcome, as most teams went by the best player available. Now, of course, there's been numerous examples of teams going off the board throughout the entirety of the NHL draft, but from observing recent trends, it would go from happening once every 3 to 5 years to us seeing it in every draft, if not multiple times in the top 10. So it begs the question, why? What has happened in the league to make teams completely change their drafting strategy? And well, it's simple. The NHL is a copycat league. Because back in 2017, we would see a history-defining moment as the Vegas Golden Knights would become the 31st team in the NHL, where they would be tasked with the seemingly impossible mission to assemble a roster through the expansion draft with the leftover scraps from the other 30 teams. Well, so we thought they were scraps. They weren't scraps at all.
And it's over. And the Vegas Golden Knights will play for the Stanley Cup.
As Vegas this season would single-handedly change the way teams would form rosters. Instead of taking the big shiny prize, aka the best player available, they instead took a risky approach where they would try to master the art of pro scouting. And this different approach has led to 2 Stanley Cup finals and 1 Stanley Cup. Because when the league realizes that there's now a new advantage to winning a Stanley Cup, without a doubt, they will get copied. And this copycat mentality has also led to teams changing their drafting strategy. And it's a big factor to why we now see an uncanny amount of quote-unquote off-the-board picks, because this now brings us to the domino effect caused by the 2017 Vegas realization, which has now caused a large influx of stars being passed upon for a couple reasons. 1. Teams have realized that prospects will have a higher probability of reaching their potential if they're placed into a situation that allows them to succeed. Okay, I mean, that may seem very obvious, but think about it like this. If a team has a Cale Makar or a Quinn Hughes, Lane Hudson running their blue line, more specifically running their power play, they are far less likely to draft the best player on the board if that player is an offensive defenseman. In 2023, the Canucks had the 11th overall pick, and instead of drafting Axel Sandin Pellikka,
Sandin Pellikka i mål! Oj, oj, oj! Pucken i krysset 6-3.
They would instead draft Tom Wielander. Sandin Pellikka was ranked ahead of Wielander on 99% of the scouting reports. So, why would Vancouver pass on him? Sandin Pellikka's biggest strength is his puck distribution and power play specialization, but he has zero shot of competing against a guy like Quinn Hughes. Think about it like this. Imagine you were constructing a car. What's the number one thing you need for a car? Probably an engine. So would it be better to have 5 engines, but no drivetrain, no oil, no coolant? No. To make a car run, yes, the engine is the most important thing here, but without oil, you're not going anywhere. As this exact scenario is what we're seeing in Pittsburgh. The Penguins at one point had Letang, Matheson, Ty Smith. All 3 of these defensemen reach their potential when they get power play time. So when they added Carlson, it was like, okay, cool, we have 4 engines now, but no oil? And as a result, Ty Smith was never given a real shot and sent down on waivers. Matheson was traded, Erik Karlsson and Letang are taking each other's power play time, which has led them to having some of the lowest production of their careers. And the same thing can be said about Oliver Ekman-Larsson in Vancouver, as he would be buried behind Hughes, where he would then sign with Florida, take over the power play, and what do you know? He has a big bounce back season and wins a cup. Bowen Byram being buried behind Makar and Taves in Colorado. With the realization, or even more so emphasis, being placed on chemistry being the biggest factor in constructing a roster, we have now seen so many budding stars get traded before ever getting a real shot on the team. And the exact same thing can be said about Broberg in Edmonton, as he would break out last playoffs, where he showed he had legitimate star upside. But aside from Bouchard and Ekholm, and the fact that the Oilers are in win now mode, they cannot afford to give minutes to a rookie. But this had more so to do with the second reason, cap space. Let's go back to Alexis Lafreniere. The New York Rangers roster construction has been all over the place this season because Zibanejad and Chris Kreider have been struggling. They're both getting older and have a combined cap hit of $15 million per season. With that being said, Kreider is a couple years removed from a 50-goal season. Zibanejad is a couple years removed from a 91-point season.
The middle, Zibanejad. He goes to the net. He scores! Mika Zibanejad with 5 goals!
Considering the rumors that the Rangers are going to make a big trade, we'll see. They cannot afford to remove a player like Zibanejad from the power play and give Lafreniere those reps. Why, you ask? Zibanejad's point production would suffer. If Mika turns out to be a 40-50 point guy making $8.5 million, they have no chance of getting a good return in the trade market. But they can, however, afford to leave Laf off the power play. Because again, Laf would score 26 goals 5-on-5 last season. So if he's playing first line power play, where he's getting fed by Panarin all night, you can't tell me he doesn't score 40 goals. And guess what happens if Laf is a 40-goal scorer? The New York Rangers, they can't afford him. They don't sign him to that contract, and their team suffers as a whole. So to summarize, ever since Vegas redefined how roster construction works in the NHL, we have slowly but surely seen a domino effect that has impacted every area of the NHL. Whether that's roster construction, teams being far more likely to trade a young star on the rise, or seeing teams draft far off the board. As it's become apparent that all teams have started to prioritize chemistry over having the best player available. I would really appreciate you if you left a like on this video, and a big shout out to Masterclass. Go check them out and use my exclusive link down below. And as always, thanks for watching.